All right, so this is study number 4 for the story of Jacob Bible study series, and this is going to be in Genesis chapter 29, verses 9 to 30. You can also just read the entire chapter if you'd like for background, but I'm going to read verses 9 to 30 for us. It says, "While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Now as soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, uh, Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. As soon as Laban heard about the news of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Jacob told Laban all these things. And Laban said, 'Surely you are bone of my bone and flesh. You are my bone and my flesh.' And he stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, 'Because you are my kinsman, you should therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be?' Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, 'I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel.' Laban said, 'It is better that I give her to you than I should give her to any other man. Stay with me.' So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, 'Give me my wife, that I may go into her, for my time is completed.' So Laban gathered together all the people of the place and made a feast. But in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went in to her. Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, 'What is this you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Then why have you deceived me?' Laban said, 'It is not so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also in return for serving me for another 7 years.' Jacob did so and completed her week. Then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel to be her servant. So Jacob went in to Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served Laban for another 7 years. All right, so that's basically the passage. So basically, on the road, few interesting points that I kind of want to just point out about this passage. One is that it actually continues along a lot of the same themes that we've already read about. I mean, it seems like it's a whole new story, but really it's definitely continuing the story of Jacob, not just as he's a person that we're following his story, but also some of the themes of the story. So some of the themes are, one of the things is it says about the younger versus the older, right? So in the story of Jacob, obviously Jacob is the one who is blessed, and he is the younger, and Esau was the older, right? So, but in this story, when in the morning he wakes up and he sees Leah next to him, what does Laban say? Laban says, "It is not so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn." So it's not supposed to be the younger before the firstborn. It's kind of like echoing back to some of the things that Jacob did. Another thing is also that Jacob himself is kind of the deceiver, right? And so the deception here that Laban does to Jacob is the exact same deception that he and his mother Rebekah did to his father Isaac. They switched the sisters in this case, right? Laban switched the sisters out. He told basically Leah, "Hey, don't say anything, just pretend to be your sister," and that's what she did. And that's the exact same deception that Rebekah did with Jacob. "Hey, don't pretend to be your brother," all that kind of stuff. So it echoes back, and it's interesting because the Bible itself doesn't condemn Rebekah or Jacob for doing that deception, But clearly, the story arc goes, is showing, see, Jacob got paid back exactly what he did. So the story itself is communicating that, hey, that's not a good thing, right? And he doesn't get away with it, or he gets away with it, but at the same time, it comes back to haunt him, and he kind of realizes how he deceived his father and how bad that was. And in this case, it's he himself is deceived in the exact same way, and he gets he feels it on that end, right? So those are two things I wanted to point out. Also, he when he first comes and meets he meets Rachel, and he sees Laban, he's very emotional. And so this is very important because it kind of shows the journey that Jacob is going on. Jacob himself is going through a tough time. He is worried. Remember, like, the biggest thing he wants in life is to be successful, to be wealthy, to be well off. And he's lost all that. I mean, his birthright, his inheritance, he doesn't have that because he's not even with his father. The blessing, like, we'll see if the blessing comes, right? So he's trying to get the blessing, but who knows if he gets it or not. So those are a couple of things, right? And finally, of course, the thing that we want to land on again is with all biblical narratives, we need to ask this question: where is God, and what is he doing? In this particular passage, the word God or the Lord never shows up. It's not in this passage at all. So, and there's 14 years that go by where Jacob is working for Leah and Rachel, and God's name is not there. But again, because of the way this is written, the entire point is to say God might not be there, like his name might not be there. He comes in and out. And in the previous passage, he was like, there's like a stairway to heaven. God was really, talking to Jacob and all that. But now he's not talking to him anymore. Is God still there? What is God doing? And you can see even through this, a lot of deception, a lot of bad things going on. God's still working. And God's still making things go good for Jacob, even though he's getting deceived. And so you can see God is still working in Jacob's life. And that's what you're supposed to see. You're supposed to see that it doesn't matter what happens. All these bad things are happening to Jacob. But actually, some good things are happening to Jacob. And God is like pushing these things together. And then, so it name drops a lot of people. We obviously have Leah and Rachel, but also Zilpah and Bilhah, because those are the matriarchs of the nation of Israel. So by mentioning those names, it's kind of saying, see, God's putting together the family. God's putting together Israel. God's constructing the nation of Israel in all of this, even though Laban is meaning it to be negative or bad for Jacob. It's actually going to be good for him, or it's going to be good for the nation of Israel. So that's kind of where we land in terms of application also. It's like in our lives, when we look at our lives, sometimes, we have these moments with God and they're really awesome. But a lot of times there's a lot of space in between where God's not really like showing up, or we don't think he's showing up. But it says, hey, let's look for God. What is God doing? And God, how is God putting things together? And maybe it may not be apparent at that moment, but looking back, looking at the whole arc of your life, the story of your life, you will be able to see God's movement and what God is doing in your life. And so that's kind of the application where we land. Is like, hey, let's take a look at our lives. Let's take a look back. Are there things and times in our lives where God has worked and God has acted and we didn't notice it at that time? Maybe we can notice them now. Okay? All right. Thank you.